Shields up, Iron Breakers. Rurikon here coming at you with another video, and today we're going to be talking about For Honor, and I invited my trusted colleague and partner in crime, Globku from Magical Noob. Say hi.
I thought we were friends, Rui. Now I'm just a colleague and partner in crime? Fine.
Well, I
Downgraded,
mean,
huh?
We could say that a partner is more than a friend.
If you believe what they say.
In Magic.
I don't know. I don't know where we're going with this. We're talking For Honor.
We're talking about For Honor. Ubisoft was kind enough to send me a copy for PlayStation 4, so I got to check it out. You've been playing on the PC version, is that right?
Yes.
So you're going to get perspectives from both console as well as PC, and from two very distinct favorite classes. You like the Samurai, I like the Viking. I'm assuming you picked the Samurai as your faction.
I did, but I've been playing mainly Orochi during the alphas and betas, and I've switched my main. So maybe a little bit of a surprise there, but I've stuck with the Samurai for sure.
I've heard you like the new guy, which is Shobuki?
Shugoki.
Is that it? Shugoki.
Yeah.
Shugoki. I like him too. I played him a little bit yesterday. I like him quite a bit as well. He's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the first thing that you got to talk about when you talk about For Honor is I really like to start with the combat. Because in a way, whenever I think about For Honor and I think about all the different modes that we've seen, and now the story mode as well, because previously we've played the betas, multiple multiplayer modes, but we finally got to see the story. And having seen the story and all these multiplayer modes, I kind of feel that For Honor is a game that was basically that team. They kind of crafted this really good combat system, and then they kind of built a game around it. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that, though I do think some game modes don't play to the strengths of the combat system. That's something we can get into once we start talking about the specific games modes for sure. But For Honor is a game that lives or dies by its combat system. And if you like the combat system, you're going to love the game. If you don't like the combat system, no game mode is going to save it for you. So it really is all about this fighting system.
It is. And would you say that, at least in my opinion, For Honor feels more like a fighting game, kind of like Tekken and Street Fighter, more so than the kind of stuff that we're used to from Melee games? Because I would say, you know, when people look at Melee action games, you got your Dark Souls, you got now more recently your Neos and that kind of stuff. And this feels very different. This feels more, again, like Tekken, Street Fighter, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think that's what's turning a lot of people off from this game. It's that sort of expectation. People who love these sort of melee games, they've been loving Neo recently. They've loved Dark Souls in the past, and these sort of medieval games where you have a sword and you slash up enemies, and all of a sudden they're presented with a combat system that's more akin to a fighting game, and it's, I would say, perhaps not as complex as a Street Fighter, and it's definitely easier to understand than a Street Fighter is. But there's still a level of complexity there that people are not willing to dive into that much, and since they're not willing to stop and analyze the game like a fighting game, like a traditional fighting game, they're stuck on a losing streak, and no one likes losing. So from there comes the negativity towards this game. That's what I feel the reaction has been for the most part. It's people not understanding that this is not a game for them, or not being willing to change their mindset when approaching this game, because it is a fighting game through and through.
It's funny the way that you kind of set that up, because that is exactly how I felt on the first beta. Like, I went in and I kept losing, and I'm like, I don't get it. I'm doing everything right. I'm not a bad player. What the fuck am I doing wrong? And I would just go in and lose and lose and lose until I took the time to actually go and do duels and figure out the different classes and stuff. Because essentially, you look at different classes, and each class works like a character, again, from a fighting game. Like, you can have, say, for instance, a Peacekeeper could be maybe like Warang or something, or a friggin' Warlord can be like Jin. And these are very distinctive play styles, and therefore you can't just expect to, oh, now I'm going to play Warlord, and after that I'm going to go and I'm going to play this other thing, and I'm going to be just as good. No, you're not. It's completely different. And that, I feel, is one of the very first things that people need to understand when they're thinking about getting into For Honor or playing For Honor, or just basically trying to even comprehend how the game works, is that each class is its own thing, is its own different play style, and initially, if you want to get into For Honor, you should try to find a class that kind of suits your playstyle and try to focus on learning that to the best of your abilities. Look at the combo lists and all that other stuff. Because again, this is a very unique combat system for this kind of game. And if you don't get that combat system, you're going to be very, very frustrated. And you're going to be not liking the game for all the wrong reasons. So having said that, I've been through that period where I was just upset about it during the betas. And once I started doing the duels and stuff, I started really getting into it and understanding how each of the classes work. Was it the same process for you, or did you just like straight up get into it from the betas and stuff?
I think somewhere in the middle of a beta, I realized it wasn't exactly a hack and slash. And started tackling more like a fighting game. And like you said, duels help a lot. Being able to slow down the pace of the game to a 1v1 duel and really analyze like how an opponent is countering you before you start figuring out how to counter the opponent. Like you learn from your opponent much better in a duel than you do in a 4v4 situation where you're just ganked from out of nowhere and don't really learn anything from that. When the game fully released, I knew exactly what I was getting into, and that was mainly due to the alphas and betas for sure.
Yeah, it's like a lot of people think they're gonna come into the multiplayer and just hit up Dominion and they're gonna just play the minion because it seems like the most fun thing, 4v4 and all that stuff. Problem is in the minion, it's kind of hard for you to actually learn how to properly play a class and how to counter, and particularly even how to parry. Like, I didn't even know how to parry before I started playing story mode, because story mode is almost a huge tutorial for parrying, but we'll get to that. Before we get into the different modes and really break them down by each of the mode as well as the story and all that, I wanted to touch up on the visuals of the game, which I've played the PC version as well in terms of alphas and stuff, but I haven't played the final version. But like, on console, I gotta tell you, this game looks amazing. I just really like the way it looks. I've played it both on the regular PS4 as well as the Pro. I didn't notice a huge downgrade in terms of 1080p, if anything at all. I don't think I've noticed any differences from the Pro to the regular PS4. However, the PS4 Pro can do 4K. I'm not sure if it's native 4K or if it's some part of it is subscale. I can tell that it's definitely higher resolution than 1080p. I don't know what the exact native resolution is, but the game looks gorgeous. Naturally, in terms of frame rate, it is locked at 30, both in 1080p as well as 4K, whereas on the PC, you got your 60 FPS.
Indeed, and unlike the betas where I praised this game for being incredibly well optimized, I've been getting some frame dippage here and there on the PC, but the NVIDIA driver came out today, and I still haven't tested it, so maybe that's something that can easily get fixed with this driver. But I've been playing on max settings with the GTX 980, 1080p 60, solid for most of the way, except on some maps have some particle effects or something that makes it slow down.
Maybe when you have too much fire, like on one of those Viking missions that everything's just burning.
I think the fire is fine. It's more of the geysers or smoke, perhaps.
Okay.
And it's only when that is paired up with a lot of players or a lot of characters on screen.
Okay. So I like the realistic look of the game, and I think the animation work that they've done here is amazing. Although I did run into a glitch on my very first live stream where my character just would not move. I think it's kind of to be expected because there's a lot of variety in these maps and stuff, and a lot of differences in the Z-axis of the game and stuff, like in terms of verticality. And I think that's at some point my character got its foot caught in something and it just kind of glitched out. But other than that, that was the one time that I've had an issue. Apart from that, the animations are amazing, and it's particularly satisfying whenever you get like an execution on an enemy and you get to do the finishing blow. Like, that just feels so satisfying. No matter which execution you do, to me so far, they've all felt extremely satisfying to perform.
And something that wasn't in the betas is the fact that you can add like a particle effect to your executions and emotes. So it's even better when you execute and all of a sudden a ray of sunlight drops down from the sky as you're executing this guy. It's even more satisfying that way.
Oh, do those come in boxes and stuff? Because I haven't even opened up any boxes. I've been saving up my steel to just whenever I'm max level or something.
No, you buy them. No, you buy them with the in-game currency, but I've
It's
got
steel.
one. Yeah, with steel. But I got one from. It was a Ubisoft reward, so kind of a Uplay thing that you buy with Uplay points.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I got a lot of those to redeem, so I should get whatever that thing is to shine down whenever I'm executing someone, because that thing is just so good.
It's pretty cool.
There's a little bit of gore, but they don't really go overboard. I think they only chop some heads here and there. I haven't seen any more dismemberment besides the heads, right?
Yeah, and there's blood, but you can turn all that off if you want to.
Yeah, you can turn that off as well if that's not your thing. I wonder how they handle chopping someone's head off without blood. I didn't try that out.
Rainbow comes out. I don't know. Let's see.
Rainbow comes out and everybody's happy. Next up, I want to touch up on the sounds. I think that overall the game's sound effects are really good. They feel very accurate and very visceral. But the voice work also very good for the story. I guess there's a little bit of voice work in the multiplayer, but you barely pay attention to the voices in the multiplayer, right?
I had an issue with the voice in the story mode, actually. So this
What?
is going to be a recommendation from me to anyone who's about to play story mode. Pick a male warden, because the female warden and the narrator sound very similar. So I had trouble like distinguishing who was talking at each time. You do get to distinguish each voice as you go into the story, but like since that's the very first thing you do, it was a bit tough for me to understand the story at the beginning, and I kind of had to review it and be like, okay, so this is this person talking, and then this is this person talking. Which I think the narrator, which is also a main character in the story, is voiced by Jennifer Hale, which is pretty cool. And the voice work is, it's solid, like you said. I just had that small issue where I can really distinguish those two voices at the beginning.
And,
yeah.
and let me tell you something. If you had picked the male warden, that would be Illidan Stormrage.
Oh, okay.
I don't know who the actual, what the name of the voice actor is, but it's the guy who does Illidan Stormrage, like 100% sure. It sounds like you're playing Illidan Stormrage almost. It's really cool. But yeah, the voice work is pretty good. Sound effects overall are great, like the clashes of swords and shields, like they sound the way you would expect them to. But I do have a bit of a complaint when it came to the sound department. That is the soundtrack. I expected more from the soundtrack, particularly in the story, because like there's certain story beats where there's cool stuff happening and there's no soundtrack, and you're just like, come on, there's like this cool epic battle going on, and we're just like, not listening to anything nearly as epic as the battle sounds. Later down in the campaign, it seemed that they did a better job with that, but at the start of the campaign, I felt it was kind of rough.
Yeah, for the first 2/3 almost, I felt like sometimes the soundtrack was cutting off too soon, which would give some awkward silences in some sequences, and also weird use of metal. I'm all for metal. Like Doom is probably my favorite soundtrack of last year, and it's just it didn't fit. Like the metal in For Honor didn't really fit with the tone of the game, I feel.
I don't remember exactly when you get the metal bits, but wasn't it during the Vikings campaign?
There's some metal in the Vikings for sure. Yeah.
Well, there you go. It fits perfectly, dude. What are you talking about? Vikings are metal as hell.
I wasn't feeling it. I'm sorry.
Oh man, I liked it. When I think I know which tracks you're talking about. Those were actually the ones where I was like, hells yeah. Now I'm friggin' feeling it. Whereas, at the start of the campaign, it was more like, oh man, what's with this silence? Give me more. Put that metal at the start too, as far as I'm concerned. Just put more music in there. I feel like that it could have gone a long way towards making the story more enjoyable, having more epic music.
Interesting.
But I also think that orchestral would have worked better.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I think that would be the style for this sort of game.
This is just the kind of game that kind of screams orchestral to me. So since we're talking on the story mode, it's actually a very good segue. So let's get into it. What did you thought of the story mode?
I thought it puts you in some pretty interesting places. I really liked some of those maps. I really liked some of the mechanics it introduced that, sort of deviate from the multiplayer side of things. It's not just, hey, let's play on the multiplayer maps, but tell a story. And I really appreciated the fact that it wasn't that. Really liked storming into a castle, for instance, or escaping this place or that place. Like, let's not spoil anything, but there are new mechanics like you shoot a bow and something blows up, for instance, which is something that doesn't happen in the multiplayer. There's destructible environments, there's boss fights, there's some custom-made encounters that have you fighting multiple classes at the same time that were also pretty interesting. Yeah, I was entertained through the whole way, which is not a very long way. It's between 4 to 5 hours. It does
depending on the difficulty.
It does offer some replayability because there's different difficulties. There are collectibles for you to get. There's co-op, which is optional, so you can always come back and do it again with a friend if you want to. I really enjoyed the story mode, even though there's not much of a story there. But
yeah. I mean, it goes back to the thing that we said at the start, which is they have this amazing combat system that they know is really good, and they kind of built the game around it, and they felt they needed to do a single-player story. Now, having said that, there's a lot of games that just kind of, what's the expression, phone home when it comes to the phone this stuff in, when it comes to doing a campaign, just for the sake of having a campaign. I kind of feel that they put a little bit more effort on this one. I mean, it's not amazing, but it does a good job of keeping you entertained. And in a way, I felt it was a very good way for you to practice the combat system. So like if you're a new player in For Honor, I would highly advise people play the campaign first and then go into multiplayer, because you will be a much better player by the time you're done with the campaign, and you will have a much better understanding of the mechanics than if you just, I'm just going to buy For Honor and jump into the minion. You're not going to have a good time. You know?
Yeah. And also, like, that story mode, it's challenging. It puts you in situations that are unfair to you as a player. Like, if you were in a multiplayer situation on a 3v1, like, you're probably going to die. But the game makes you deal with that situation in story mode. So that's great practice. I guarantee you not everyone playing multiplayer has beat the story mode. So you beating the story mode first will make you a better player than a lot of players out there on multiplationer. It will definitely give you a big it will definitely give you a big boost at the start. And also there's a ton of currency that comes out of that, which you can use to buy multiplayer stuff.
Oh yeah, that's right. You get a ton of steel out of doing the single player. I almost forgot about that. I think I got like 6,000 steel by the time I was done with the initial tutorial. That's another thing. Don't skip the initial tutorial, because you're going to get 2,000 steel, which is the game's currency.
And there's an advanced tutorial. If you dig into the menus, there's an advanced tutorial that gives you another 1,500 steel, I think.
Oh my god, I'm going to have to do that one. I haven't done that one just yet.
That's the one that teaches you the parries.
Oh, okay. That's why I only learned about parrying in the story mode, because I don't do the advanced tutorials. But yeah, it's like doing the tutorials, doing story mode also gives you tons of currency that you can then use to unlock heroes as well as buy chests. We're going to get into the currency a little bit further on as well. I wanted to definitely bring up the point that you said about the different mechanics that show up in the story. I don't want to spoil anything, so I can't talk too much about it, but there are things in there that are different. I wish that there were more, because like looking back to it, I think it was like 6 or 7 different things throughout the whole thing. I would like to have more of that, because that's kind of what distinguishes the story from the main thing. Sure, tell us about the combat, let us practice the combat in the main story and all that, but give us more of the really fun and weird stuff that we had to do throughout the way, because I thought that was cool. And it was actually interesting, because I did my live stream for the campaign, where I started the campaign and I went all until 1.5, and then I stopped, and then I immediately regretted that, because I did the mission afterwards, and 1.6 was like the best mission. It was better than everything else I had done before. And the more you advance into the story, the cooler the missions got, I want to say.
Definitely. I think Chapter 3, which is the last chapter, is the strongest of them all. Especially in regards to giving you different things to do and unique things to the campaign, for sure. See, it gets better as time goes.
I think that's because you like the samurai most, because I liked the second chapter the most.
We can have this discussion. We're going to get into spoilers, but I can guarantee you the best level is on Chapter 3.
I'm not sure. I don't remember a lot of this stuff anyway, but... It's like I think each player is going to have their favorite level depending on which one of their favorite faction is. Because a lot of this game is also a visual experience. And like, for instance, I was not a huge fan of having to play the Orochi so much in the final chapter.
Right. Yeah,
Because
me
it's
neither.
not my play style at all.
And I love the Orochi, but I also didn't appreciate that. I think the game could easily give you different classes to play. Like, you don't get to play all the classes.
Yeah, you
during
don't play
mode.
all the classes during the story mode, which I thought was weird. I figured they're going to have us play all the classes. It's almost a given, right? And then you finish the story mode and you're like, wait a second, we didn't play this or the other one. And I think
And they totally
either I'm
had...
mistaken, or the samurai, they get the least. They only get like 2 classes, right?
You play with the Orochi throughout all the missions, except one mission where you play as the Kansei.
Yeah.
And the other
I thought
2
it was weird.
classes, it doesn't even touch them. The Vikings also don't touch one of their classes, and the Knights also don't touch one of their classes. And I think they had plenty of opportunities to have you play as one of those other guys.
I think they definitely should. I think you could even just introduce it later down the line as a patch or something, because I don't think that it's too hard for them to kind of work out these little campaign bits. You could have like an additional chapter or something just placed in there. I don't think it'd be too hard. And they could add all of the classes, because that would become a much better campaign, and it would actually introduce all the classes to the players and make the players, get to know at least each of the classes before they're done with the campaign. Whereas this way, with the current campaign, you're done with the campaign and you still haven't played, I think, 4 of the classes in the game.
Exactly.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But other than that, overall, like I said, it's a good way to practice without getting bored. Because, if all you're trying to do is say you want to practice a class, you have this free practice mode. You can get in there and you can practice that class to your heart's content. But this way you get to practice the combat and you get to experience a story and you're still having fun, basically. That's the way that I look at it. And I enjoyed it overall.
Yeah, definitely. And even though there isn't much of a story, there is an idea that is conveyed. There is a message there. And there are, I would say, a couple of memorable characters, which for a game with a ton of characters in its story that kind of drop in, drop out, a couple of memorable characters isn't a lot. But still, that's something, I guess.
Yeah.
But the missions themselves were very, very enjoyable. It's a good story mode. I loved it. Yep.
And the story mode has multiple difficulty modes that you can play in. I actually think you have a trophy for beating it in realistic mode, but realistic mode, you're not going to have a fight UI, and that scared me away from it. Because I wanted to play on the hardest mode, but then it's like, oh yeah, but you don't have a fight UI, so you can't see which way your opponents are attacking from. And I was like, yeah, I want to get better at the game before I do that one, because that one sounds like it's tough.
Yeah.
The hard mode provided plenty of challenge, and it was fun. It was fun. I enjoyed it. Next up, we're going to be talking about the multiplayer, specifically the different multiplayer modes, because I think that this game is going to live or die based on its combat, but particularly based on its multiplayer, because it's going to need to keep a community active playing this multiplayer. So we're going to start with Duels and Brawls. Personally, these are my favorites. Duels and Brawls is what I like the most. Now, in Duels and Brawls, there is no gear bonuses, so it's just straight up duel. It's just like we said, we've been talking about fighting games. It's just like that. It's your class versus another class and go. Now, the difference between a duel and a brawl is duel is 1v1, brawls is 2v2. So 1v1, just straight up one class versus the other one. It's always best of 5, if I remember correctly. And then you have brawls, which is 2v2. And the interesting thing about the 2v2 is that they basically put one player in front of another and just have at it, but you can not fight the player in front of you and instead run over to the other player and just have a try to gank the enemy player real fast or something. How do you feel about these?
I do feel like they're the ones that showcase that combat system better than any of the other modes, for sure. Duel, like we said, you're able to take your time to counter a character, to think how your opponent is going to play, and really just take your time to defeat him. And Brawls, it introduces another team member, and that extra depth of being able to ignore your directed adversary and run to your buddy's adversary and try to gank him, maybe get one hit in before you have to turn around and deal with the other guy. But it's still all about the fight. It's 1v1 or 2v2, but it's all about the duel, all about the fight, which the same I don't think can be said for any of the other game modes. So yes, these are also my favorite game modes in For Honor. My concern with these, though, is that I feel that the game is mainly being balanced for Dominion. So especially on duels on 1v1, there are characters that are kind of broken at the moment. And
You're talking about the Nobushi right now, am I right?
I'm talking about the Shugoki. Really.
Oh, the Shugoki?
Yeah.
He's that powerful?
Yeah, I think the Nobushi is the one that can kind of counter him. Yeah, you need to be a really good Nobushi, because a good Shugoki will counter anything you throw at him. I think they're not going to fix that, because their main game mode is the minion, and that's how they balance their game. They balance their game around the most popular game mode, so to speak. So when it comes to 1v1, I think broken characters will remain broken. And it's a tough thing to balance. I feel their pain, because it's not easy balancing a character for both 4v4 and 1v1. But it's also a shame that the game mode that they're pushing the most is the minion. Because I really enjoyed the brawls and the duels, but I feel like
brawls
it's
should be
slightly unbalanced.
I think brawls should be what they balance around, because like brawls is a good competitive mode because you have 2 players in there, and there's, it's a controlled environment. Whereas you get into a Dominion and it's just complete chaos, and balancing around that, I can't even imagine. It's going to be insane balancing around Dominion. But yeah, Duels and Brawls is our hands down favorite, but it's going to differ from whether or not you have 4 people that play with you. Maybe you have 4 people that play with you on a regular basis. Maybe you might enjoy some of the other modes that are available, like Deathmatch, Elimination, and Skirmish. So this is hands down my least favorite 2 modes. And I was actually kind of upset because the very first quest, because whenever you go into multiplayer, you have these kind of like daily quests that you can do. And they will be like, oh, do 5 elimination matches on player versus player. Play as an assassin on 5 elimination matches, something like that. And on my very first set of orders had a ton of elimination stuff, and I was like, oh man, I just want to play duels, but I also want to win some steals, so I should do these deathmatch things. And so I ended up playing quite a bit of elimination and skirmish, and the difference is, skirmish is kind of like a smaller version of the minion with no control points, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty much what it is. And instead of control points, you have these power-ups in the ground.
It's like a MOBA. You can jungle, basically, and get a damage buff or an HP buff or something like that by standing on the point for a little bit. And then you absorb that and you just take it with you, and hey, now you deal double damage to every enemy around you, or you have a second bar of health, something like that. Yeah,
or you can run faster, and there's a ton of them. You have those on both Skirmish and Elimination. Now, the difference is that Elimination works kind of like Brawls. So there's 4 players. They kind of put a directed opponent in front of you, but instead of being 2v2, it's 4v4. So basically, you can all try to get together and beat the other team as 4 players, or you can try to duel the person in front of you and then go and help your team and all of that stuff. But in Elimination, there's also the power-ups, as well as there's gear advantages, because as you play through the game, you're going to unlock gear. In multiplayer, I mean, you're going to unlock gear for the different classes that you play, and that gear does give you a bit of a stat benefit. And in these modes, Elimination and Skirmish, that gear comes into play. So like if you're a level 1 fighting against a level 20 or something, they are going to have some advantage over you. I don't know how much of an advantage, because I haven't played enough. I haven't leveled up my characters enough. But there is a bit of an advantage there beyond just the more skilled that the other person's going to be, because he's played more than you, basically.
So far on what I've played, because of the matchmaking not matching me with players of very different levels, I haven't felt that significant of a difference so far.
Yeah, me neither.
But if if it's a slow day and there's not a lot of people playing, you could be matched with a high level player.
Yeah, and I mean, we don't know if that is a huge problem or not, because, that's one of those things that's going to, time will tell, basically, depending on how many people are playing the game and all that stuff. But at this point in time, I don't think it's a huge problem, but it can become a problem because, again, there's gear advantage. But on these modes, again, both these modes, Elimination and Skirmish, have those power-up things. So I've had situations where I'll be just beating the crap out of someone as a Warlord, which is... Warlord, if I'm not mistaken, is like the slowest moving class in the game.
I think the Shugoki would take that.
Okay,
that
maybe
price.
Vishugoki is.
Yeah.
But Warlord's really slow.
Yes.
So I'll be fighting, say, a Nobushi, and I'll beat the crap out of him. And when he's about to die, he books it. And he goes and he gets a power-up, and then he comes back, and I'm just like, what the hell?
Yeah.
That happens a lot in these game modes, which is why it's kind of frustrating. It's like you have to expect that, cheap things are going to happen when you're playing this mode. That maybe you're fighting someone, all of a sudden someone shows up behind you and smacks you, and you're like, what the hell happened? Because Elimination and Skirmish, these are not duels. These are like all-out brawls, and, well, brawl is probably a bad term for this because there's brawl mode. But
Right.
yeah, basically you can get attacked from all angles, and you have to be alert at all times. But having said that, just because it's not my favorite mode does not mean that it is not a good mode. And if you have 4 friends to take with you and you're all organized, you can have a lot of fun in this mode because you can basically curb stomp a lot of people.
I do think they have to look into players running away from you, because that can be really annoying. I've seen like situations where you've defeated the whole team, there's only one guy left.
And you will resurrect them.
No, but even if they're all dead past resurrection, like that one guy, because he's an Orochi, he'll just run away until the clock runs out. And he's going to lose the match anyway, because my team has 3 guys alive, his team only has the 1, but he's just running away. We can't kill him because he's faster than all of us. I think Ubisoft does need to look into that, into players running away in these modes. Actually, more in Elimination than anything else. That's probably the one that is problematic.
Yeah, because the skirmish is by points, so you can just take out a couple of more minions and eventually you just win the match through points alone. But yeah, definitely, that's one of the most frustrating situations I've had in these game modes is whenever I'm just beating someone and then they'll book it. And if they happen to be faster than me, well then, tough luck. You're out of luck, basically. I've even had this one time that I was chasing down an Ibuchi, and I have the speed boost on my Warlord specifically for this situation. And even with the speed boost, he was still able to get away from me. And I was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Doesn't seem very fair. I'm specifically spec'd to deal with this situation right now. So maybe a little bit more balancing, which is kind of to be expected because this is, sure, we've had the open beta and all that, but now we're live. This is the time that they're going to be testing and they're going to be seeing the strategies that people are employing and the pre-mades and all this other stuff. So this is when they're going to start balancing it out. So I would expect over the next couple of months for them to do a couple of changes, hopefully. And we'll see how the game feels in a couple of months from now. And hopefully the community sticks with it, because I'm having fun. I'm having fun with it.
Yeah.
The next mode, which is probably what, as Globka said, this is the main mode of the game, is the minion. That is, that's the most MOBA-like mode almost. Well, actually no, because it doesn't have the power-ups. Instead of power-ups, you have capture points.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about the minion?
I don't like it.
You don't like the minion?
Yeah, I think it takes away from the fighting system, the core fighting system. Like it's not a good showcase for that. It's a game mode that is, well, first of all, it's about capturing points. So it's about going where your enemy isn't, so you can capture the point they're not guarding. It's about taking 2 or 3 guys and ganking another enemy instead of dueling them or outsmarting them, outplaying them. Because the way you outplay is by coordinating as a team and outnumbering your opponents. Like 9 times out of 10, that's how you win a Dominion match. Is by being where your enemy isn't, or by having more people where your enemies are. So like it stops being for honor for me. It's just not about the combat system anymore. Dominion for me is just. It's a control point game. It's about being in the right place at the right time. So I really don't like the minion.
Here is where we're going to disagree a little bit. I kind of like the minion.
Okay.
Not as good as I like Duels and Brawls, but I kind of like the minion. Because the minion is basically the mode that a player can... Let's say someone goes to the story mode. Maybe they've done it on normal or on easy because they're not amazing at the combat system, but they have a basic understanding of it. Mm-hmm. The minion is the one mode they can play in where their combat skill isn't the only deciding factor. Because, a more casual player can go into the minion and they can kind of contribute to the team. They can push B point by just killing a couple of minions. They can help capture another point. Like, they can help out without necessarily being the main contributing force. Like, whereas on a duel and a brawl, everybody needs to pull their weight. You don't pull your weight, you're dead weight. In the minion, you can kind of get by with maybe a lesser skilled player because he's running around, he's trying to get the points and stuff. He's contributing to the team without necessarily being the best person in a duel.
Yeah, and that's precisely because Dominion is a game mode about standing in the right place at the right time, and for that you don't necessarily need to understand the combat system. Which is, you love that aspect. I don't really.
I didn't say I love it. I say it's a third mode that I would like. Out of all these modes, it would be my number 3 mode that I would play every now and then, just for fun. It's it's the kind of mode that I personally would not take that seriously because there's a lot of weird stuff that can happen. Unless you're going in with a pre-made and you have a controlled environment, then you can take it seriously. You can be like, okay, 2 guys go here, 2 guys go there. But on one of the betas, I remember I was just running around, me and a friend of mine, and we were just mangling everyone. I don't think the enemy team was having a good time at all. I'd just be running around as a raider, just pushing people against walls, kneeing them in the face, and then by the time they get back up, my friend was already slashing them for 30 seconds or something, non-stop with an Orochi, just like the R1 spam. So they get back up, and they're less than half their health is gone. More than half their health is gone, I mean. So... Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you can team up with other people, you can kind of pub stomp really hard. But, it also depends on the game matching you with another pre-made, at which point you can get pub stomp. So, there you go.
Yeah, those points of higher level play, I think there are going to be some interesting matches. I just don't think the interesting thing about those matches is the skill of each player individually. It's more of how do they split up? How many players do they send to point C at that time, or how many, And
those are going to be the strategies. It's more of an overview thing and less of, okay, no, I'm going to block like this so that I can counter like this. It's going to be very different. You're not going to be thinking in terms of duels when it comes to Dominion.
Yeah.
I just think it's an interesting mode because, if all you're doing is dueling and brawling, you get to a point where it's oh, man, I'm kind of tired of just dueling and brawling. And dueling and brawling, you're always, having that adrenaline rush because it's all on you. Whereas on the minion, you can kind of relax a little bit. So in a way, I kind of feel if you're serious, you go to duels and brawls, and then when you want to relax a little bit, you hit up the minion. And then when you want to hate yourself, you go and play Elimination and Skirmish. So I guess it's time for us to talk a little bit about character customization. Did you change a lot on your character?
I changed what I could on the Shigoki because you're very limited by the level of your character, and each class has an individual level. So the more you level up, the more options you have. And I guess I changed what I could in the Shigoki so far, but we're still early in, and I can see there are a lot of options. And during the beta, I certainly did some significant changes that I felt that my guy would stand out in a crowd. But right now that's not the case. It's still a bit early for me.
Yeah, there's a lot of unlocks that you get, and on top of the unlocks that you get just from leveling up and stuff like that, there's also, you can also scavenge gear specifically for your class through the use of steel, which is the in-game currency. And by doing that, you're going to get gear for your class, which again changes the aspect of your character as well as the stats. But can you also get cosmetics through the boxes? I'm actually not 100% sure.
Yeah, I believe so.
I think you can. Yeah.
So we're when you say scavenge gear, and I think this is important to clarify, we're talking about blind boxes, right?
Yeah, it's blind boxes basically.
You spend money and you get some random items out of a box. And you can choose which box to open. So you can open a weapon box or you can open an armor box, So you know what kinds of items you're going to get, but you're not buying specific items for that class. You know that they're going to be items for that class. So you're going to get items for the Shigoki. You're going to get items for the Orochi. You know which class you're buying items to. You know you're buying weapons or armor, but you don't know which.
Yeah. And when we're talking customization, we're talking you can change, I don't know, you can change you can have an engraving on your shoulder pads. You can have an engraving on your chest piece. You can have the painting of the symbol that you create at the start of whenever you start up the game. There's this symbol that you create, your banner or whatever. You can have that symbol on your chest. Depending on the class, some classes wear it on their legs or something I usually focus on the Warlord. So the Warlord wears the symbol on his chest. you can change a lot of stuff. Basically, there's a lot of customization options to the point where even if you have a character with a shield, you can change the pattern on that shield. You can paint it. You can do all kinds of stuff in terms of customization. So there's tons of that.
And you can buy some of that stuff with steel as well. It's not all via these blind boxes. There are some cosmetics that you can buy with steel if you manage to put enough together. So yeah, I think there's a good balance of stuff that comes out randomly in boxes and stuff that you can unlock if you save up enough money for it or save up enough steel.
Yeah, the point I'm making is that there's a lot of customization, so all of you unique snowflakes out there, you're not going to look exactly like the Orochi sitting next to you, okay? I just want to make sure that people understand that. But then, this is where it gets a little bit murky for me personally, which is, you can buy steel for real money.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're talking about a game that is a $60 game, and it's got microtransactions in it to the point where when you go to the store, you might even be left wondering whether or not this is a free-to-play game. Now, I'm not saying there's not enough content in the game. There's tons of content. You got the story, you got the multiplayer modes, you got enough content for a single-player game. Not a single-player game. I mean, you got enough content for a $60 game, for sure. But, like, there's all this other stuff that you can then kind of buy at the store that I kind of feel is maybe a little bit too much. Where do you sit on that?
So, I think I've been getting enough steel where steel wasn't a problem for me yet. In fact, I'm sitting on 5,000 steel right now, and I've bought all the classes, and I'm kind of wondering where I should spend these 5,000.
You're gonna buy gear for your favorite class.
But is it worth buying gear right now at level 10? Because if you buy gear, it's going to give you gear that's appropriate to your level. So maybe you should invest on XP. And XP is the thing that I think is a bit slow. Like, if there are ways to buy XP boosts, which there are, it's called a champion status, which makes you gain extra XP per match. Then yeah, that gets a bit murky. But I don't think steel has been a problem yet. I've been getting it left and right, and I don't know if it slows down over time, because I've gotten a ton of steel from the tutorials, from story mode, from all that. But I still feel like I've bought everything I wanted so far, and I still have leftovers to buy extra stuff. So the steel hasn't really been an issue for me personally. Though I do feel like I wish I could level up faster. And I'm talking, and I have champion status.
You've bought champion status?
Yeah,
for,
and I don't feel a huge difference. So
okay. I haven't bought champion status. I've been looking at it, and I'm just like, It's kind of a weird thing, but the interesting thing is that all of this stuff is available with in-game currency. Like, I haven't found anything that you can't buy except for the season pass. I haven't found anything that you can't buy from in-game currency. So even though you can speed up your progress, as a matter of fact, you can even unlock the feats, which are skills that you get for certain game modes like Dominion, Elimination, and Skirmish. Every character can get skills for those modes specifically, and you get those skills as you level up. The game actually lets you buy that with in-game currency, so that you can just have all those skills unlocked from the get-go.
Yeah, I think it's something that only time will tell. If the currency starts running out, and if it starts being a bit too greedy with the way it gives you currency, that you start feeling forced into buying more, then yeah, that might be a problem. But so far, it's really not. I've been getting enough currency that I feel like I'm able to buy everything I want. So
yeah,
far,
I'm bringing up the microtransactions just for the sake of argument, because if the store thing wasn't there, up until the point that I've played, I haven't felt like, oh man, I really need to go and get that 49 euro something steel so that I can do this thing. I haven't really found something that I'd be like, oh yeah, I want to do this thing. I need more steel because of it. I'm on the same boat as you. I'm just saving my steel so that when I level up, I'm just going to buy a crap ton of boxes for Warlord and just become the best Warlord in the world. That's what I'm going to do.
Good luck.
So overall, I've been enjoying For Honor quite a bit. I enjoyed the story. Whether or not the game has enough longevity, which is a concern that I hear from a lot of people, I don't know if that is going to be the case or not. We haven't even touched on the faction war system.
Right. I don't like that at all.
You don't like the faction war?
No.
Why?
So faction war, basically, after you finish a match, depending on how well you did on that match, you get to deploy some troops for your faction to fight over some territory. No matter how well you do in that match, I never felt like I made a difference. You know? I never saw that percentage moving whenever I deployed troops into a territory. It's because
that's because it only updates every so often.
No, but it shows if you're winning or losing the battle, right?
So, no. I think that's how things ended up last time. I think it only actually updates.
But you see the progress bars.
On.
You see bars saying, oh, there's this percentage of samurai troops versus this percentage of Viking troops. And I never saw those numbers moving as I deployed troops.
I think those percentages are what was left over after the conflict.
I don't think so, man. And I think I don't see an impact either way. Like, my actions, I don't see a direct impact to them. And it might be because of the fact that this is on a huge scale and everyone's contributing to this same map, and it's cross-platform. Like, it's the one thing that is cross-platform across this entire game is this faction war stuff. And because there are so many people, you just don't matter as an individual. So I really don't like that. And it's one of those things where after a match, you have to go to a menu entry to deploy your troops to the area that you want, and everyone's doing it, so everyone's delaying the start of the next round or the next game. So it's delaying you playing more For Honor on this thing that I don't personally see the impact I'm making on this overall war. And sometimes it's like I played a bunch of For Honor, I deployed a bunch of troops. We lost territory. Next morning I come in, I've been sleeping all night. We won some territory. Oh, great. I didn't do anything. So, yeah, I don't like faction war, and other games have tried stuff like this, and I haven't seen the solution to it yet.
I think that this is more entertaining for, communities that actually are organized in, like, forums and stuff. And they're like planning these offensives on a larger scale than, a single player is. Personally, the way that I've been doing it is everywhere that there's a conflict with my faction, I go in there and I place one thing down. And I'm just like, hey, whatever, I'm helping out a little bit.
Congratulations, you don't matter.
But ultimately, as these things take place and the rounds and the seasons and whatnot, you will eventually get gear. I'm not sure if it's exclusive or if it's... I don't know how that's going to work, but you're going to be able to get like gear and rewards based on whether or not your faction wins. So ultimately, you're contributing to your faction. Even if you don't go and you don't place the thing, I'm not sure if you know that, but if you don't go, you don't have to place the orders. You can just hit ready, and they will just spread them out across the battlefield instead of placing them all in one spot. Yeah.
Okay.
It always gets used up. At least that's my understanding from what I've read in the menus. Is it always gets used up even if you don't place it in there. So you're always contributing to the fight even if you don't go and manually place your... It's not orders. They have another name. Your war assets.
Yeah.
Even if you don't place your war assets. So it's an interesting thing. Like you said, other games have tried it. We'll see how it works out for them. But, maybe it's because the Vikings are just demolishing everyone right now. I'm enjoying it. Because the Vikings right now are just I'm looking at it right now in 8 minutes or something. It's going to update. But I'm looking at it right now, and the Vikings are just crushing it, destroying all the other factions. So it's all good for me. I'm having fun with that. But I was talking about the longevity of it, and it's always something that gets brought up when a game is mainly multiplayer, right? You're always wondering, is the community going to stick with it? Is it going to be a thing? Now, the thing is, I like this combat system a lot. Does it have longevity? I honestly don't know. It's going to depend on how people feel about it, how people feel about the balance of it, and which game modes people enjoy the most. Because like you said, if Ubisoft is focusing most of their efforts on the minion, if people really enjoy the minion, then they're going to keep playing, they're going to keep having fun. But if there are people that just like Duel and Brawl and they feel like the balance is not there, then who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? Now, ultimately, the daily orders that you're going to get, which are, like we said, the daily quest kind of thing, is going to try and drive players to specific match types to keep all of the matches, all of the different match modes healthy. But who knows if that is going to work out or not? You think they're going to succeed in that?
I think there are enough game modes that an individual player will be entertained jumping from game mode to game mode. Regarding Ubisoft trying to bring players to one game mode or the other with the daily quests, not really, because like I said, it hasn't been a problem getting steel, and that's mainly what you get from those daily quests. You also get XP, I guess, but I think steel is gonna stop being important at some point, and people are just gonna play what they want to play.
I think more importantly than driving people to the different game modes is how are they going to keep it fresh, you know? Because like right now, if you go to your faction base, there's this thing called events. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what the hell that is.
And they do have like a long plan. They released a video with season pass content, and I think they're
adding like 6 more classes, right?
Yeah, and I think it's the same deal that they're doing with Rainbow Six Siege, where if you have a season pass, you get early access to those classes. But if you don't have a season pass, you can still get those classes with steel, actually, and you can also use microtransactions to buy them if you want, I guess.
Oh, you can actually buy the season pass for steel, and I said earlier you couldn't.
Oh, that's good.
I was not aware of that. There you go. That's where you're going to buy your steel. You're going to buy the friggin' season pass.
How much is it?
36,000 steel. So, oof. Interestingly enough, wow, okay, so this just blew my mind. So you can actually buy the season pass with in-game currency.
That's really cool.
Okay, they get a pass on the microtransactions. If you can buy the friggin' season pass for in-game currency, that's impressive. I did not expect that.
That's really cool, yeah.
That is very, very cool. As a matter of fact, I'm grinding steel right now, buying that season pass. Done deal.
What does it get you, though? It's like early access to those classes. I don't think
yeah, early access, but you get also 6 elite outfits. You get sunbeam effects. You're going to get emblem outlines, 30 days champion status, and 3 scavenger crates.
Okay.
So it's actually a significant amount of stuff if you save up enough steel to get it. So
hey, you're gonna get that sunbeam effect.
Yeah, I just think it's like this just blew me away. Like we're recording this video, and I'm looking at this, and I'm like, wow, you can buy a season pass for in-game currency. Now that, and it's a good idea because it's gonna keep the community playing to get those 36,000 steel so that they can get that season pass.
Yeah,
that is very commendable. The fact that you can play the game, and if you play enough, you can buy a season pass for your game. That is a very good way of doing it. Bravo, Ubisoft. Did not expect to say that in this video. But yeah, overall, I mean, if you guys like this kind of gameplay, you guys should be watching gameplay in the background. If you guys like it, then you're going to enjoy it. Just keep in mind, it's more like a fighter, less like a hack and slash. You're not going to button mash your way into victory unless you're fighting people that don't really know what they're doing. And yeah. Like, I like For Honor. If you're enjoying the gameplay, you're probably going to like it too. So I would advise you to go ahead and get it. How about you, Globku?
Yeah, I definitely recommend it if you're a fighting game fan. And if you're into hack and slash, this might be a good gateway game into fighting games. Yeah,
that is an interesting concept. That is a very interesting concept.
I've been enjoying it a lot. Just beat the campaign recently, and I've been playing multiplayer here and there. And I think I haven't stopped playing this game since a month ago when they started with the alphas and betas again. And I still want to play more, which is great. I think the progression has been keeping me going, and I really want to unlock more stuff. There's a reward loop that is really good, I think. So yeah, just want to play more. It's entertaining. It's good.
So there you go. Those are our opinions on For Honor. We would recommend it if you like this kind of gameplay. Thank you guys very much for watching. Remember, you guys can check out Globku. There's going to be a link in the description. You can check him out at Magical Noob.
Yeah, check me out.
Oh, yeah. And if you guys happen to speak the Portuguese, you can also check Project Consolamos, which is also going to be in the description below. Thank you guys very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.